everybody, welcome to another episode of Capital Spotlight. Today on the podcast, we have Marie Baldassarre. She's Chief of Staff for Repro Khanna. She worked her way up on the comms side to Chief of Staff, which is a little bit more unusual, so we're going to dive into that. We just have a really good conversation here. She's a very fun person to talk to. She talks about relationships across the aisle, which is definitely something we all need to learn more about. Tune in. Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Capital Spotlight. Today, we are here with Repro Khanna's Chief of Staff, Marie Baldassarre. Marie, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yes, welcome. So tell us a little bit about you. Where are you from? How'd you grow up? Kind of the top points before we get into everything.
Sure. I am from New York originally, but I went to college in Ohio, and then I lived for a year in Rhode Island before coming to DC. So I've kind of been all around.
Nice.
Love to run, love to read, big theater kid, all of that.
Cool. So are you from upstate New York or the city?
I'm from like 30 minutes outside the city, and this is a real point of tension from people from the river towns, is that we're not upstate New York.
Okay, gotcha.
Very important. Yeah.
Of course, that seems like something that they would clarify. Like,
Yeah,
no, we're not
like
part of that
real-
group, you know?
Yeah.
All right, and then where'd you go to school in Ohio?
I went to Kenyon College, which is
Okay.
out in Ohio, which is a really big writing, liberal arts school in the middle of nowhere.
Very cool.
Yeah.
So what's closest to it?
Oh
What
my
city?
goodness. Well, it's in Gambier, Ohio.
I'm in Pittsburgh. We live so close to Ohio, and I have no idea where that is.
No, it's tiny. There's like nothing. There's a Chipotle and a Walmart,
There you
and
go.
that's it.
That's all you need.
But those are the important things to be fair. But it's about an hour or so from Columbus,
Okay.
which is actually such a cool city. So many companies are going there. There's like an art scene, a
Nice.
restaurant scene. I feel like more people need to know about it.
For sure. Yeah, as a Pittsburgher, I'm contractually obligated to like hate Ohio because
Yeah.
of like football rivalries and all that. But it's actually a pretty cool state, and there's some good cities there as well. So
you know, Roe is from Bucks County, Pennsylvania.
I didn't know that.
Originally, yeah.
Oh, cool.
So he's like very loyal to.
you know, all those Central Bucks people out there. There's so
Yeah.
many of them. I
Yeah.
went to University of Pittsburgh thinking like, oh, I'll go to
Nice.
college and hang out with a bunch of people from Pittsburgh.
Mm-hmm.
Turns out everybody's from Bucks. So like all the Philly kids go to Pittsburgh for school, and I'm like, what the heck? I don't want a bunch of
Yeah.
Eagles fans around here. But
Yeah.
that's a whole different podcast.
I went back to Bucks with him actually, and I loved it. I
Nice.
thought it was
Yeah,
great.
it's a really pretty
Yeah.
area, so I'll give them that credit. I
Yeah,
guess.
that's very big of you.
All right, so obviously we're here. We want to know who you are outside of politics, but we also want to talk about who you are like on the Hill as well. But we'll start outside. So you said running is a big part of your life, fitness. So tell us a little bit about that journey. How'd you get into it?
So I've been wildly unathletic my entire life. I played soccer for 8 years and I never scored a goal. My hand-eye is terrible. So then I discovered running and was like, oh, wait, I can actually run for very slowly, but for a really long time. And so I've just gotten very into it. I've run a half marathon before. I'm debating training for a marathon.
Okay.
So I found that it's such a good way to clear your head. No other like exercise I feel like gives me like the mental clarity.
Get that runner's high.
Exactly. Like it really helps me calm and de-stress.
I'm sure there are a lot of people out there that would argue with that statement.
I know.
but
People hate it with a passion. I never understand. I'm like, you have to start slow. And
yeah, for sure. I'm glad it works for you.
Yeah.
Props to you. But that's
Are
great.
you not a runner?
I used to be, but now it's like, oh, I can't do it.
Yeah.
I like to play basketball, and I could run like 6 miles playing basketball, but if I had to go out into the wild and run 6 miles, I don't think I could do it.
You just need a good playlist. You can
Yeah?
get back
All
into
right.
it, I
Fair
think.
enough.
Yeah.
What kind of music do you listen to when you run?
all over the map, like completely random. I like upbeat things. Like
Okay.
I've never liked sad music. I need something that's upbeat.
For sure.
But it's all over the map. And I do a thing that my friends hate where I'll play a song on repeat.
Oh.
So like sometimes I'll have runs where I listen to the same song for like 10 minutes. It's very crazy. That's one of the
Yeah.
strangest.
Yeah, I feel like people could say, oh, if you like to run, you're crazy. crazy. And then if you like to run and listen to the same song,
Yeah.
You're definitely going to fit some sort of stereotype there.
And to be clear, I don't think it's normal or good. It just is like what I do.
If it works for you, it works for you.
Yeah.
All right, good stuff. What else are like your activities outside of work that you like to do?
Yeah, so I'm part of a Washington Women in PR group, which I really like because it's communications on the Hill is just a very unique thing. It's its own thing. So I love hearing what other communications jobs look like and what they're doing. And so often it has like no overlap with what I do at all.
Yeah, right.
So I found that really interesting. And then I participate in a Staff Up Congress program, which is about mentoring young people on the Hill because I was so confused when I started on the Hill that I'm like, I wish that I had had someone to be like, hey, worry about this, but don't worry about that. And some of that. And then I play tennis, I read. I've taken up meditating, actually, which I used to hate. And now I'm actually seeing the benefits of.
All right.
So.
There's a few different things I want to get in there. But first off, so for younger staffers who want to get involved in the mentorship program, can you talk a little bit more about that?
Sure. So I actually think the number one thing to do is just be aggressive about outreach because there's so many opportunities on the Hill and it can actually just be really hard to hear about them. Yeah. And so if you start meeting with people who maybe went to your college or maybe you worked with or just that you have some connection with or maybe you just really like their boss, reach out because the Hill runs on coffees. I do coffees with people I don't know all the time just because they email me.
For sure.
And I think the way you learn about a lot of these programs is I'll be talking to someone and I'll be like, oh, you should talk to this person who heads up this program and you might be really interested in that. Or, oh, you're ready for the next step. I actually know that this office is looking for a new, comms director. So a lot of it is word of mouth and it kind of takes just putting yourself out there, which can be really hard. But
yeah, for sure. And it's just like, go for the big lobs, Like I would reach out to, when I was an intern, I would reach out to like the leadership comms people. And it's like, all right, we might as well go to the top, right? And that person ended up getting me my first full-time job on the Hill. So like worked out really well, but don't like sell yourself short. Just go for it.
It's really amazing. And it's actually something that Ro does where he just asks for what he wants of people. And sometimes he'll tell me, he'll be like, oh, can you try and make this happen? And I'll be like, there's no way that is going to happen. And I ask and half the time it happens. And it's crazy. Like, whoa, that's crazy. And the other time it doesn't. And then he moves on with it. And it's like, okay, we tried.
Yeah, I feel like as a culture, we probably beat around the bush a little too much.
Yeah.
Nice. So how have you seen that like work out? Do you like now try to use that as well? Or you just be more direct?
All the time. I reach out to, particularly when I did communications, I reach out to everyone. And we had a phase actually where we like couldn't get him on all the Sunday shows. Like he had never done a Sunday show before. And we were like, because it was reserved for senators or leadership. And so we just kept pushing. We just kept asking. And now most weekends he's on a Sunday show usually. And so it takes time, but it's so worth asking and keep at it without annoying people. Be respectful, obviously, but it's totally worth asking.
Yeah. Love that. All right, so let's talk meditation. How'd you get into that? Like, what do you do? What are the benefits?
So one of the things that I intellectually know is that it's always best to stay calm, no matter what you're dealing with, no matter, a personnel issue, whatever it is, you have to stay calm and handle these things calmly. But I'm Italian. and so
that's the perfect opposite feeling of being calm,
And so they're like, sometimes I just want to respond, impulsively or in anger. Never. Yeah. So I have actually started meditating to try and really help me regulate my emotions and stay calm and make sure that I'm creating a positive environment and all of that. Yeah.
Well, that's great. So what does that process look like for you? Is it like 10 minutes in the morning, or like you doing it throughout the day? What is it?
So I'll do it. What I've found about it is that it doesn't last very long. Like I'll do it and then I'll have 30 minutes of calm.
There you go.
And then it'll like be gone. And so I do it. I always do it in the morning. And then if I have like a meeting that I'm stressed about or whatever it is that I'm stressed about, I'll try and do it right before.
For sure.
Just to make sure I'm in the right headspace going in.
Yeah, I feel like my mindset on the Hill a lot was go, go, go. And I think everyone falls into that because there's so much going on and you have to rush from thing to thing. But when you take those moments to slow everything down and figure out how to do that as a skill, I think it's super beneficial.
Yeah. And, you know, as comms director, there was so much pressure to constantly be responding. Like I wanted to respond to TV bookers within 5 minutes because they're so stressed about it because it's a live show.
For sure.
And as chief, that's actually not the best way to handle things. It's usually better to sit on something, to think about it, because the decisions you make have long-term impact if you're deciding on an office policy or what to do in a situation with an employee. So I'm trying to also just slow down and be thoughtful.
Yeah, it's hard to get out of that mindset too. Like when I left the Hill to start Connect, I kept having this mindset of I have to do everything so fast and get it out the door. Meanwhile, I'm in my bedroom, like no one's around. I'm the only person working for the business and it just doesn't matter, you know? So finding ways to slow down, you can be as productive, but like keeping your mind from racing in that process, I think helps you make more calculated decisions.
Totally. It's so important.
Nice. So you're a reader as well. What type of books do you like to read?
So my basic philosophy on reading is that if you're reading, it's good. You know, so I'm not picky about, I'm not like, oh, I have to read the most serious book all the time. So I read a lot of murder mysteries. I really like that. And then I think because I'm a staffer, I really love political books about staff. So I'm reading Unlikely Heroes right now, which is about FDR's staff.
Very cool.
And I read The Gatekeepers, which was about chiefs of staff. So I'm kind of so often you just hear about the principal, but you have, you know, the closest staffers working every day really have a lot of sway into what's happening and making it happen. And so I think just because I'm a staffer, I like that.
Yeah, for sure. That's super cool. I hadn't thought about that way because I get into the mindset of read about the principal, read about who they were. But there's so many cool stories about how the process came to be. And so that's fascinating. Any other good recommendations there?
So those are the staff ones that I'm really into. I did love Ill Will, which is like a murder mystery, but it's kind of written like a novel. So I love that one.
Are you the type that has multiple books going at one time and you read based on mood?
No, I kind of like stick with it, which is actually a little bit of a problem because I'll get stuck with the book and then I'll stop reading for a month or two. But
I feel you. I'm in that phase right now.
Yeah, it's hard to then get back into it.
For sure. Sad.
Yeah.
Cool. So you spent most of your career on the comm side of things, recently made a transition to chief. A lot of times we think about legislative directors moving on to be chiefs and don't hear about comms directors doing it as much. So for the comms people out there that are like, am I ever going to be a chief of staff? How do you set yourself up for that process?
Totally. Well, I think part of it is that the Hill is changing and you have less traditional bosses like Roe who are kind of willing to take a chance on, you know, uplifting someone who's not from the traditional legislative path. I also think comms directors genuinely have a real opportunity, as do schedulers, because you spend, if your member's interested in press, you spend so much time with them.
Yeah.
And it kind of became a thing that as I was prepping Roe for all of his interviews, I was actually advising him on like basically every issue because I'd be like, I don't know if you should say that because, this group is going to think that. And so I ended up like, one, really building trust by just spending a lot of time with him, but two, actually like giving him policy advice. And so I think it was combination of that made him feel comfortable.
Nice.
Than promoting me.
I think a lot of people on the Hill want to get to a point where their advice is taken seriously. Mm-hmm. How do you get to that point? Is it just trust over time? How do you weigh your takes, or when to kind of weigh in on a situation? What does it look like?
That's such a good question. And I think it starts by just doing the work and learning the members' priorities. Like, genuinely, I think first 2 years should be like, unless you like deeply disagree with something, but I think first 2 years should really be about learning their vision and showing that you get it and you understand it and can move it forward. And then I think once you already have that relationship and they know that you're capable of like understanding their main stuff, I think that's when you can get more into the role of advising on, various more sensitive issues. But I think it's hard to just jump into a really sensitive topic and be like, this is what I think, without that trust already there.
For sure. How does that mean that you kind of have to stay on top of things at a higher level as well? And I assume you're probably then trying to weigh news of the day back to what you've learned about the member and what their priorities are.
Exactly. I think you always just have to be thinking about them. I think there are times where maybe Ro wants to do an interview and I'll be like, gosh, like, he took a red eye last night and he hasn't really, there's been a lot of breaking news around this topic and he hasn't really had a chance to read all of that. And so sometimes I'll like push that interview later or something where you're very much pushing their agenda, but you're also like prioritizing what they're going to look good doing and what's going to make them happy and how they're going to succeed a little bit.
For sure. Quickly, when it comes to making that jump to chief of staff, your mindset has to change a lot. Your normal work duties are very different. And when we've talked to legislative directors who have become chiefs, they feel the same way, where they think it's going to be the culmination of the policy route, but instead it's something completely different. When people say they want to be a chief of staff, what should they expect if they get to that point?
They should love managing people.
All right.
They should really be open to working with the staff and be comfortable with the fact that if everyone is doing a really good job, they don't have that much to do, which is so uncomfortable for me because I had such clear deliverables with communications and you got the results right away. If I did a good job, it was like a big profile that everyone could see and felt good about. And so it really is adjusting your mindset to being like, I need to uplift everyone else. And also, I need to be good at scheduling. Yeah. That is such a huge part of being chief that I feel like not enough people realize.
For sure. I'm sure all the operations directors out there will be amening to you right now.
Yeah, it's a huge part of it because if their travel goes wrong, everything is going wrong,
For sure. So what do you do to create a good office culture to manage well?
Yeah. So one of the things but when I took over, I met with everyone and kind of got, what's important to you personally and what do you think works really well in our office. And one thing that people told me that they wanted, which actually surprised me, is people really wanted direct feedback. Yeah. And which I was kind of like, well, I don't want to seem like I'm micromanaging you, but people really want it. And so I've set up every 3 months, I check in with someone one-on-one just to be like, what are you working on? Are you happy? Is there anything else that, we need to be doing? For sure. I've also started doing just yesterday we did like a legislative and comms training where we basically just all sat around a table and asked each other questions. Cool. We do a retreat every year.
Nice.
I think some of the personal stuff is of just feeling like you're a group, like you're a team is really important.
And building that relationship outside of the office helps a lot too. Do you go on your retreat back to the district?
We switch each year. So we'll do like this year we did in the district, next year we'll do in DC. So then district staff gets to see the Hill and DC staff gets to see the district.
Nice.
And
Very cool. I like that. All right, we'll definitely come back to some of the office work, but still want to get some personal stuff in. And I think one of the coolest things is your fiance is a former Republican staffer.
Yes.
So you guys made it work.
We made it work.
Loving across the aisle. It can be done. So would love to hear a little bit about how you guys met and how you built out a relationship that can work in a contentious world.
Yeah. So we met on Hinge, and I was trying to remember. I think that we both put that we worked in the Senate, but we didn't put who we worked for. And we actually didn't talk about politics or anything on the first few dates.
Wow.
So
Congrats to you guys.
You know what I think it was looking back? I think we kind of knew we were on opposite sides of the aisle and didn't want to deal with it just yet. But he was always much calmer about it. In the beginning, I would really kind of try and fight with him on it. And as we talked more about the issues, I genuinely realized that there's so much common ground. I met his friends, many of whom are Republican staffers in Congress. I love them. I think they're like such great, lovely people. And I think in general, it's actually helped me grow so much. It has totally lowered my levels of partisanship. Yeah. It's really like opened my mind up to a lot of new ideas. So I think it's been such a positive.
Yeah, and I had the same experience meeting my wife, and we did not agree on politics when we started dating, and I was a Republican staffer at the time. And so there's this preconceived notion of what a Republican or Democratic staffer is, and if you allow people to just like, or if you allow yourself to think they fit perfectly in that box, then you're not going to get to know the real person in that process. And so I think it took time for us to break down those ideas of who the other side was, and you had to get to know the other person truly as who they are. And then you realize, wow, they're not this like characterization that the media or whoever portrays as like, this is what these people are like. And it was extremely valuable for us. Yeah.
And I think like every staffer on the Hill wants to be doing good work. No one that I've met is there to cause chaos or, tear the country apart. Or everyone is really there to do good work. And I think when the intentions are good and you give people that basic, benefit of the doubt, just makes it a lot easier to talk about other stuff.
For sure. So, and I think without saying it, you mentioned a good point of you guys built out your relationship about who you guys are outside of work and learned about those factors before you dove into the harder conversations.
Yeah.
I think that helps a lot. Like that's kind of one of our mindsets here at Connect is build a relationship on something else. And so you develop a little bit of mutual respect and trust, and then find the time to dive into the harder issues. But whenever it does come to talking about like politics inside the relationship, do you have any advice there?
Ooh, it kind of goes back to staying calm.
Yeah.
Don't get angry. And don't try to win the other person over to your side. Yeah. I think like actually try to figure out why they are feeling that way or why they believe that.
For sure.
And I think that's ultimately the real way to win them over is if you can poke enough holes gently in their argument. But I think it takes not having a super aggressive, tone to it.
For sure. And at least in our relationship, we've seen that it's moved us both more towards the middle and to a more cohesive thought process between the both of us. And at the end of the day, like our values are the same, and that's why we got married. So the political views can be different, can be the same, but they'll kind of mesh based on that value system too, which I think helps a lot.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I think it's like helped my family too, because they were always really partisan, and now they like love him. And you know, it's like, so it's like helped everyone. And I think it was kind of good because at the time that I started dating him, I also started working for Roe, and Roe is someone that is so big on bipartisanship, has so many friendships across the aisle. And so I think the combination of both was like the perfect storm for me to really be like, whoa.
A real mind shift.
It was a real mind shift, yeah.
That's great. So I think we did a stat recently with our staff, or with people working on the Hill, asking them, would you date someone from the other side of the aisle? 60% of staff said that they would.
I'm surprised by that.
Yeah, I mean, I'll believe it when I see it. But, but so 60%, the 40% out there, you have two relationships here that have worked well for this. So it's possible. But when it comes to challenging thinking, I think Roe, Congressman Khanna, we'll try to keep it formal.
No, he hates Congressman Khanna. He only goes by Roe.
All right, there we go. When I worked for Guy Rushenthal's, it was like, just call me Guy.
Yeah, just Roe, please.
Yeah. All right, so just call him Roe and Guy. But so when working for Roe, he's someone who doesn't fit the status quo. He doesn't always stick to the party line. How has that challenged you on an individual office or on an individual level? And then working for an office like that, how's it changed the like political scene for you?
I think it's great because I think he says what a lot of people are thinking. Like he kind of cuts through the noise, and usually when he does do something independent, it's something that really resonates with like Americans. Like we get so much, like he did a big political reform platform that he just kind of did himself, and it got so much feedback from people. And so I found that those are often the moments that people really appreciate the most.
Sure.
And I do think there's a difference between being vocal and bucking the status quo and being rude.
Yeah.
And I think he walks that line so well of he'll go after policies, he'll go after like messaging points, but he doesn't go after specific people.
That's great.
And I think that's the key.
For sure. So how has that challenged your office to think differently about politics and how you interact with the other side?
I think it's had to open everyone up to Roe doing meetings or speaking with people where maybe other Democratic offices aren't doing that. He's so big on engaging. And sometimes you're like, whoa, I don't know that you should be engaging, or I don't know that you should do that specific show or press hit or something. But it always, like it almost always, I should say, works out. And they have a really interesting conversation, and it widens your horizon on the issue. And if it doesn't change your mind, it at least opens you up to like the criticisms that you'll receive for your position, so you can work to counteract them. So I think it's been really positive.
Yeah, and I think as a Republican staffer, Roe is always somebody where I'm like, I love that guy, you know, because you could see someone who is willing to be honest and willing to do the hard interviews, willing to talk about topics that other people weren't. Even if you didn't agree with him necessarily, you could see that he was open to just conversation and not going to attack in a way that a lot of members do. And so I've always appreciated that, and that openness to just be honest goes a long way.
And I think there's this idea on the Hill that if someone reaches out to you about a piece that's clearly going to be negative, that you should somehow not engage or like not respond. And the truth is that piece is coming anyway, you know, like you ignoring it doesn't mean they're not going to put it out. And so when you engage, you have the chance to shape it and make it less negative and make it more positive, or shape someone else's policy, or, you know, it gives you a chance to actually move things more your way.
Yeah. And I believe you become more humanized in that process if you react with a reporter, not to say always by any means, but if you're reacting, or if you're interacting with a reporter and you're willing to talk to them and be honest about what you guys are up to, it does like soften them a little bit.
Totally.
Of, hey, maybe this guy isn't as bad as I thought he was.
Totally. And we have had lots of times actually where someone's written a total like terrible piece on Roe, slamming him. And then we get coffee with them afterwards. And the next piece is a positive piece
There you go.
on something totally different, but where they've found common ground.
Cool. So don't hold those grudges.
So do not hold a grudge. Like you can, even if you get a bad piece on something, you can get a good piece from them on something else.
There you go.
Yeah.
Don't have like a hit list of reporters up in your office. You know, it's like, these are the people we will not interact with.
You can have like one where you're
All
like,
right.
that's a real bad actor. But like other than that,
All right.
yeah.
Everyone gets their one.
Everyone gets one.
All right. So working for a member in comms, how was it working for someone who doesn't toe the party line always, but also takes the hard interviews? Does that make your job easier, harder?
I think my job is in some ways easier just because Roe is really smart.
Yeah.
Like he doesn't need that much prep, and he's usually when he takes a tough position, he's pretty thoughtful about why he's doing it. I think sometimes it'll be hard because we do so much stuff that it's hard to totally do all the necessary research and prep him and all of that.
Yeah.
So I think the volume of things that we're doing sometimes can make it hard, but I think like he's not a member where you need to give him like written remarks for every single thing. Like he can kind of be free.
That's also nice post-interview or whatever it is that you can just take his words and put them out there instead of having to craft your own message in his voice.
And one thing that's really unique about Roe, which it's surprising that this is unique, but if you're like, oh, I don't think you should say this, and he says it and it gets a bad reaction, he'll be like, you were right. I was totally wrong. Like, I shouldn't have said that. And that also lowers the pressure because you're like, if I advise him not to do this and he does it and it goes badly, he totally takes responsibility for it. He's not mad at me for the interview.
Yeah.
So that sort of lowers the pressure where even if I disagree with him about doing something, I'm like, if you want to do it, like do it and let's see. And he's usually right.
Yeah.
But
I think that's great advice across the board too. A staff assistant can use that when dealing with interns or as a chief, you can use it when dealing with your office. If you're willing to say, yeah, that's on me, I messed up. It goes a long way.
It really does.
It's hurts your pride a little bit, but everyone looks at you with a softer heart because of stuff like that.
Yeah, I have no issue apologizing when I'm wrong. I think you should. Yeah.
We're learning a lot how to deal with the other side in this relationship for sure.
Yeah.
So let's go back to the softer side of all of this. So you love theater. You've acted, directed, and then obviously you're a connoisseur of theater as well. So tell us.
So I used to be very into acting when I was in middle school and high school, but I would get terrible stage fright. Like it was just took such a toll on me that I was like, okay, let's like move behind the scenes and direct. And when I was in college, you could apply for grants. So I would apply for grants to help fund these shows that I would do just with my friends. And I never expected them to take it serious. We did This Is Our Youth by Kenneth Lonergan, which had thousands of lines for people to memorize and was a huge production. And I had all my friends were in it, and I was so worried that they weren't going to actually learn their lines and it was going to be such a disaster. And all of them did, and it was actually incredible. So that's probably the one I'm proudest of.
Cool.
But yeah, it was just like a really fun, good experience.
What all goes into directing a theater production?
So you have to do casting. It's actually a bit like being chief, where you sort of oversee everything. So you oversee casting, you oversee the set, you give notes to the actors, you try and, mobilize the team to make sure there's like a good energy on set. It's actually quite similar, I think.
Yeah, for sure. And you got a lot of characters.
Yeah, yeah. And your main actors are like the principals, you know? You have to keep them happy and
love it. Yeah, there's a lot of resemblance there. That's great. So as a connoisseur, what are some of your favorite productions?
So I know that you have seen Wicked.
Yes, one of like the 3 shows I've seen.
I will say that was the first show that I ever saw. And so that's the one that really left like a mark on me where I was like, this is incredible. But I just love the energy of it, that you dress up and you go and people have worked so hard to put on the show.
Yeah.
I just love
My wife has definitely given me more of an appreciation for it. And my mom tried to as well growing up. But we were in Austria one time in Vienna, and she's like, well, let's go see this production of Cats. And so this
Cats
is when
is a hard one, to be fair.
Well, so this is when I was younger too, like just getting into theater. And we go, and it is a sock puppet production
That's terrible.
of Cats.
That's
and
really
you're just
bad.
sitting there like, am I in the Twilight Zone right now? So it really like gave a bad taste in my mouth. So for the people out there, they're like, why don't you like theater? Blame my mom.
No Cats. It shouldn't be Cats. Did you see the Cats movie?
No, I
That
didn't.
the whole world rejected.
Yeah,
so.
I could have told you that
Yeah,
one. You know?
yeah, you should have been involved in the.
Like, was Eric Stone Street in that, or am I just thinking of like Modern Family?
I think they had like cameos from like every
Yeah.
person in the entire world, so I'm sure.
Yeah, just seeing a bunch of people in leotards. I was just like, guys, this just doesn't look right. Anyways.
It was, I have actually not seen Cats, which maybe is why I still like
There you go.
theater.
Yeah. And for my mom, who will definitely listen to this at some point, I'm sorry. You did try to make me like theater, so you're good. All right. It's
Yeah.
not your fault.
It's one mistake, you know?
But yeah, so that was a fun part of life. But anyways, so when it comes to finding community in DC, we believe that it's really hard to stay in this town if you don't find that community. And at least my belief is, if you come here, don't find that community, you're probably one of the people that comes for a year and leaves. So to be successful here, I think it's integral to find that group of people that keep you grounded. So what does that process look like for you? Any recommendations, advice?
I think acknowledging that it's actually really hard in DC. I've had so many cycles of friends that leave. Like, you really do lose a lot of people.
So sad.
Which is so sad. And it's so, like, then you're like, I have to go and make all new friends. But I think the good part is that the Hill has so many young people and interesting people on it. For younger people, I would say, like, start off by finding a few, like, reception friends, like people that you can go to events with, and then it's so easy to translate that then into real friendships. And I think one thing that has been so nice about being chief is that, one, your jobs require you to work together. Like, you really need strong relationships with other chiefs.
For sure.
So everyone's very open to meeting. And also the turnover rate is just much lower with chiefs than it is for any other job. So when I'm meeting someone, I'm like, you're going to stick around. Like, that's good. This is worth investing some friendship into.
Yeah, that makes sense. How do you do that outside of work?
Outside of work, I think there's a running club, actually, which I really like and think is good. I think DC runs on book clubs, so there are like 1,000 of them floating around. I think my apartment building runs one.
Nice.
So doing stuff like that, tennis. I find sports are a good way to do it. I did DC Fray for a while. That's a good one. Yeah.
So we've had Michelle Dorothy on the show, which I don't know if you know her, but
I don't think so.
She has a Chief of Staff's book club. So for all the chiefs out there, including yourself.
This is what I mean about you talk with people and then you find out, about different things. That's so interesting.
Yeah, so check her out. She that was a great episode. She is super cool. So go back and listen to it. For the people listening, go back and listen if you haven't. But cool. So outside of that, what advice would you have for those younger staffers coming up on the Hill who want to be successful? Like, definitely find your community, but how do you set yourself up inside of the work environment to be successful?
I think part of it is sticking by good people. I think find the people in your office that are going to really uplift you. I've had my direct managers recommend me for jobs, but I've also had random people in the office that I sort of, worked with, but not directly under, but I just knew that they were a good person.
Yeah.
And so they were willing to kind of go out on a limb for me. So I think really forming strong relationships within your office is really important. And I also think the Hill can be so chaotic that there really is a tendency to get kind of caught up in like some of the chaos of the Hill or internal drama or your own priorities, or you can just go 100 miles an hour. And so I think really focusing in, and offices know who's delivering and doing the work. And it might take a little while to notice, but everyone notices. And if you're in the 5% of offices that don't like really value that, then that's just a huge warning sign to you to get out of there.
Yeah, that makes sense. For the staffers out there, the young staffers who go, I want to be in this position in X amount of years. I want to be in this position after that, and kind of have already created what they want their career flow to look like. Not saying that's wrong. It's always good. It's great to prepare and to have a plan. But what would you say to those people who have a lot of structure around what they believe their career journey will look like?
I think take the opportunities that come to you. I never planned to even be on the Hill at all. This was totally not my plan. And I never planned to be chief. When Roe offered it to me, I was like, what? And so I think sometimes these things just fall into your lap if you're working really hard and doing a good job. And so I meet so many young staffers that are so stressed. Yeah. And there's no point to it. I really don't think. I think it's like, work your hardest. If in Hill offices, there aren't always openings. So when you feel like you've hit that limit, like, don't hesitate to move. I think people sometimes get too sentimental about moving jobs. Or
like the whole Hill idea of like, this is how you do it. You have to be a staff assistant for a year before you look elsewhere. Like that type of thing. I feel like that hurts people.
It totally hurts people. And one thing that I'm really proud that we do not do in our office is like, if someone comes to me and is like, look, I've worked here for X amount of time, there's no opening above me, but I'm really ready, I will totally help them. Like I don't want our good staffers to leave. I certainly, I'm not like, oh yes, leave. But I just feel like when someone's done a really good job for the office, it's your turn to repay them if you don't have a promotion for them.
Don't lead them on and be like, hey, maybe this will open up, which maybe it will, but I think it's good to let them fly.
Yeah, you have to be like, let me help you. You've done amazing. I'm so grateful.
Yeah, that's hard because you want to hold on to good talent, and so you want to dissuade almost. But I think that is important and selfless for yourself and the office to encourage people to leave if necessary.
I think sometimes there's a fear from younger staffers that like they're going to be to apply to other Hill jobs for fear that their boss is going to find out and be mad. And I kind of think we should do away with that a little bit because these offices are just so small. Sometimes like there's just nothing else for them to do. It's not a sin to want a new job,
And that's the worst part about good offices too, is you create a great culture and so people don't want to leave. Right. And then you continue to curate good talent, but then there's no room for them to move up.
I know. It's frustrating. You wish that you could have like 8 LDs or,
Right? Senior LA.
Right. Yeah, no, totally. It's a genuine problem on the Hill that there are just like only so many slots and so many talented people.
Yeah. So last question, you kind of alluded to it. You had an odd encounter with the Hill to like get started. You were a psychology major, correct?
I was.
And so like the Hill was not on your horizon.
Not at all.
What got you there?
So I was a psychology major. I graduated without a job, zero clue. This is why I always tell young people, I'm like, don't worry about it. Like, I remember on my drive home from college, I was like crying in a Denny's to my dad because I was like, I don't have a job and what am I going to do?
Not the only one.
And so then I sort of like regrouped, and I was going to study for grad school, but I was like, well, I'll just work on a campaign as like my year of public service, basically. And I went to Rhode Island because my cousin was there and I could live in his house, and I was like, this will be fun and good. And so I worked on an attorney general race in Rhode Island. And Rhode Island is the tiniest state in the entire world. And so through that, I met all of Senator Whitehouse's staffers, who very kindly pushed for me to get this open press assistant job. And it genuinely remains like one of my happiest days ever, was finding out that they were going to hire me and also bring me to DC. I was like, I've made it. Like, I'm in the big leagues now. So
another topic I just want to discuss real quick is what it's like to work for a member who represents Silicon Valley, just because there's so much innovation, so much of like market capitalization in the entire world is coming out of this district. And it's also getting more conservative in the process. So as an office, as a member of Congress for Roe, like, how do you guys handle such a cool place, but also a difficult one?
It's pretty amazing. And I think one of the things that Roe has really spent his career focused on is spreading some of the jobs and opportunities in Silicon Valley across the country. When he goes to college campuses and when he goes to more rural places and to HBCUs, the energy and excitement that people have around Silicon Valley and the opportunities that it can provide is so incredible. Like, people see so much hope in it to build a future. And so it's really been amazing to kind of go around and see what Silicon Valley means for everyone else. And I think the other thing is, like, as we are seeing a slightly rightward shift, I think Democrats, and Roe has been leading on this, need to respond by being like, we're still the party of innovation. Like, we support tech, like, we support AI, but we're going to do it thoughtfully and with clear regulations, and need to articulate a little bit more that they believe in these emerging technologies.
Gotcha. Have you ever seen the show Silicon Valley?
You know, I stay away from any TV that's like political, Silicon Valley. Like, I just am like, in my free time, I'm like, I can't.
Yeah, fair enough. Highly recommend. It's a good one.
Should I watch it?
It's like the tech version of Veep, you know?
Yeah, also never seen.
Oh my
goodness.
goodness.
I know. I just can't bring myself with it. It's too similar.
So the Veep comment I made before we started this one, over the head.
I know not so many people reference it that
Fair
I like
enough.
have the basics, but
I feel like Silicon Valley will trigger you less than Veep would.
Okay, so I
Veep,
should start with Silicon Valley.
For sure.
And then
Start there.
move to Veep.
Yeah, if you can do it.
I'm watching Love is Blind DC.
Okay.
Actually.
There you go.
So
any thoughts?
Not a good season, honestly. I don't think we've done our best.
Sad. I haven't gotten there. I want to watch it just because, you know.
Yeah, just for DC.
For
yeah.
sure.
No Hill staffers on it.
Yeah, it's like, I guess that makes sense. Like, who's gonna let your like staffer take that much time off?
Yeah, it's
but
like
I'm sure there were some
months,
staffers that applied. You know.
Yeah. You know, one way that I think the Hill has really changed since I started is now staffers can like have digital presences and do stuff like this. And
For sure.
Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah, I think it's super important too. You want to balance being a voice for your member and don't be like on Twitter putting out your own statements.
Right.
But it's nice to be able to have your own personality too.
Yeah.
And not feel like you have to hide behind your member.
Yeah. Oh my God. When I first started, like the number one advice I got was like, don't ever post a tweet in your whole life. Like, you'll regret it no matter what it is. Like, and now it's such a different culture.
Well, we appreciate you coming out from behind the scenes and coming on, because we want to know about the staffers behind the scenes, and you're a perfect example. So thank you.
Yeah. Thank you for having me.
All right. Thank you guys for listening. Thanks again for tuning in to the Capital Spotlight podcast. If you enjoyed the show today, be sure to subscribe to our channels to stay updated on our latest releases and get our shows early. Share the show with your friends and rate us on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. For more from Connect, follow us on our social media, Connect app, CNCT app. and subscribe to our daily newsletters and check out our website. It's capitalconnect.com. Capital is spelled with an O. See you next time.